Number 10. The Wooden Gun. John Dillinger, March 3, 1934. Crown Point Prison, Indiana. Public enemy number 1, John Dillinger, was held in what was called the escape-proof jail. The media described it as the most secure facility in the state, but Dillinger was patient. For weeks, he secretly carved a perfect replica of a Colt .38 pistol out of a block of wood, using only a razor blade. Every night, he worked under his blanket, carefully wiping away wood dust. Then he polished the gun with black shoe polish until the wood gleamed like real metal. Even the barrel looked authentic. That morning, he calmly pulled out his creation and aimed it at 2 guards. "Hands up, boys," he said. The guards froze, staring in horror at what looked like a real gun. One of them even raised his hands to the ceiling. Dillinger coolly took their keys, locked them in their own cells, grabbed 2 real pistols from the armory, and walked out the front door. He didn't run. He strolled out confidently as if nothing had happened. Outside, he hijacked the sheriff's car and vanished into the mist. The most incredible part? The wooden gun was so convincing that the FBI kept it as key evidence. It's still on display in their museum in Washington, D.C., a perfect example of how creativity and patience can outsmart even the most secure system. Number 9. Escape through the law books. Alfred Hines, London, 1955. Alfred Hines was serving 12 years for an armed jewelry store robbery, but insisted he was innocent and had been framed. For months, Hines immersed himself in studying British law books, precedents, and court procedures in the prison library. He filed so many petitions, appeals, and complaints that the guards grew tired of escorting him there weekly. It became routine. No one suspected it was part of a grand plan. One day, during another legal visit, Hines discreetly pulled out a thin piece of wire. Within seconds, he expertly picked his handcuffs, clearly not his first time. When the guard turned to check documents, Hines slipped through a narrow bathroom window, scaled a 6-meter brick wall topped with barbed wire, and vanished into the bustling London streets. He remained free for 248 days, over 8 months. During that time, he even launched a media campaign proclaiming his innocence. When he was caught again, he escaped again a few months later using the same tactics. Eventually, Hines reached Ireland, where he became a folk hero. He wrote several best-selling books about his escapes and appeared on television criticizing the British legal system. 8. Sewer Escape. James Earl Ray, 1977. James Earl Ray, the man who assassinated civil rights leader Martin Luther King Jr. in 1968, was serving life without parole in the notorious Brushy Mountain State Penitentiary, Tennessee. June 10, 1977, 9 years into his sentence, Ray and 6 other inmates launched a desperate escape attempt. They crawled into a narrow sewer pipe that ran deep under the massive prison walls. The pipe was only 76 centimeters in diameter. So tight they had to inch forward with their arms pinned to their sides. Slowly, centimeter by centimeter, they squirmed through filth and darkness for 27 agonizing meters. The stench was unbearable, the air suffocating, the space claustrophobic. Every sound echoed. Any moment could have meant discovery. Finally, they emerged into dense forest beyond the walls. Covered in sludge, they scattered into the Tennessee hills. Despite being nearly 50 years old, Ray stayed free for 54 hours, over 2 days, moving only at night and hiding during the day. Exhausted, dehydrated, and covered in insect bites, he was captured just 13 kilometers from the prison. The genius part? The entire escape route had been mapped using topographical maps smuggled in through the prison mail system, hidden inside magazines and newspapers that guards never suspected. 7. The Yoga Escape. Choi Gap-bok, 2012 South Korea. 50-year-old inmate Choi Gap-bok was serving time for theft. But Choi had one unique skill. Years of yoga practice had given him unbelievable flexibility, almost inhuman. On September 17, 2012, Choi decided to test his limits. He coated his entire body in thick, moisturizing cream, every inch from head to toe. Then he examined the food slot in his cell door. It was only 15 centimeters wide and 45 centimeters high. For a normal man, that's physically impossible. Even an adult's head wouldn't fit. But Choi began to squeeze himself through, millimeter by millimeter, first his hands, then his head, compressing his skull at terrifying angles. Surveillance cameras caught everything. It looked surreal, as if his bones had turned soft, his shoulders folded, his ribs bent, his spine contorted in ways that seemed anatomically impossible. The entire process took just 34 seconds. In barely half a minute, an adult man squeezed his entire body through a cat-sized hole. Guards couldn't believe it when they found an empty cell and reviewed the footage. Choi made it out and hid in the city for 6 days before being tracked down by urban CCTV. After this, South Korea ordered all prison food slots to be redesigned nationwide. 6. Escape through the vent. Stephen J. Russell, Texas, 1998. Stephen J. Russell was a true con artist genius. By then, he had escaped from prison 4 times, using fake documents, forged IDs, and impersonations. Once, he even posed as a judge and faxed his own parole order. Now he was placed in maximum security, constant surveillance, reinforced walls, minimal movement. Escape seemed impossible. Russell began with a classic trick. He faked a massive heart attack. His acting was flawless. Chest pain, gasping, cold sweat, panic. Guards rushed him to the prison medical unit under close watch. There, security was looser. Russell noticed a ventilation grate and began working on it. Every night, while nurses made rounds, he used a metal spoon from the cafeteria to slowly unscrew the bolts. It took weeks. By day, he hid the loose grate behind medical equipment. By night, he kept working. Finally, he widened the hole enough for a person to crawl through. When the time came, Russell climbed through the vent, crawled through the air ducts, and reached the loading bay. There, he changed into a stolen doctor's uniform, clipped on a medical badge, and calmly walked out the main door, nodding to guards. "Evening, gentlemen." He stayed free for 45 days. His story later inspired the Hollywood film I Love You, Philip Morris, starring Jim Carrey. 5. The uniform switch. Frank Abagnale for Catch Me If You Can. Before age 21, he had impersonated a Pan Am pilot, a doctor, a lawyer, and a teacher. Without a single degree, he forged $2.5 million in fake checks. April 1971, Federal Detention Center, Atlanta. At 22, Abagnale awaited trial, expecting at least 20 to 30 years. Using his charm, he persuaded a friend outside to deliver a fake guard's uniform to a contact near the prison. The uniform was a perfect replica. Accurate patches, insignia, even fabric color. Then came the psychological play. Abagnale began engaging the guards in security discussions, claiming he was writing a research article for a law magazine. He spoke intelligently, using proper terminology, gradually earning their trust. Soon, the administration saw him as a smart, harmless intellectual. They even let him inspect some facilities for his article. During one of these inspections, Abagnale entered a maintenance room to check it. Inside was the hidden uniform. He quickly changed clothes, and during a guard shift change, when confusion peaked, he simply walked out alongside off-duty guards. Pure confidence and manipulation. No violence, just brains. Later, he struck a deal with the FBI and became one of their top security consultants, a job he still holds today. 4. The Dentist Cover Story. Joaquin El Chapo Guzman, July 19, 2001. Puente Grande Federal Prison, Mexico. Joaquin Guzman, aka El Chapo, Shorty, leader of the Sinaloa cartel, one of the most powerful drug lords on earth. He was locked in maximum security. Thick walls, armed guards, constant cameras. But Mexican authorities underestimated one thing: his money. For months, El Chapo methodically bribed everyone. Ordinary guards got thousands for small favors. Supervisors, tens of thousands. Department heads, hundreds of thousands. Even the prison director pocketed over $1 million. Corruption spread everywhere. Chapo turned the prison into his headquarters. He received fine food, alcohol. He ran his empire via smuggled phones from inside. That night, guard Francisco El Chito Camberos rolled a laundry cart to Chapo's cell. Chapo climbed inside and covered himself with sheets. Camberos calmly wheeled the cart through several checkpoints. Other bribed guards simply looked away. The perfect cover. When a head count began, they said, "Guzman's at the dentist. Emergency tooth treatment." It bought him hours. By the time the truth came out, he was hundreds of kilometers away, surrounded by loyal gunmen. El Chapo remained free for 13 years. And yes, In 2015, he escaped again through a 1.5-kilometer tunnel complete with a motorcycle on rails. 3. The Dummy Heads. Alcatraz, June 11, 1962. Alcatraz Island, San Francisco Bay. The Rock, the most secure prison in America. Frigid waters, strong currents, sharks, and 2 kilometers to shore. Escape was considered impossible. But Frank Morris, a bank robber with an IQ of 133, and brothers John and Clarence Anglin decided to defy the odds. 6 months of preparation. Every night they used spoons and a homemade drill built from a vacuum cleaner motor to chip away concrete around ventilation grates. It was grueling. One wrong sound and they'd be caught. By day, they hid the holes with cardboard walls painted the exact same color. Guards passed by daily, unaware. The masterpiece. The Dummy Heads. Weeks of work. They molded faces from toilet paper and soap, creating papier-mâché heads, then painted them in skin tones. Rosy cheeks, subtle shadows, stubble. The final touch, real human hair, swept up from the prison barbershop floor and glued strand by strand. The result, eerily lifelike heads. On the night of the escape, the dummies lay on their pillows. Guards shining flashlights saw sleeping inmates. Perfect illusion. Meanwhile, the real men crawled through vents, climbed to the roof, and reached the shore. There, a raft made of 50 raincoats awaited. They disappeared into the bay. No bodies were ever found. The FBI closed the case in 1979 as presumed drowned, but no proof. In 2013, a letter surfaced, allegedly from John Anglin, claiming all 3 survived. The dummy heads are still displayed in the FBI museum, flawless in every detail. 2. The helicopter legend. Pascal Paillet, a French armed robber turned legend, the only man to escape prison by helicopter twice. First escape, April 12, 2001. Louin Prison, Provence, France. Friday, 11 a.m. A normal day. Suddenly, the sound of helicopter blades filled the air. Paillet's team had hijacked a private helicopter at gunpoint and forced the pilot to fly to the prison. The helicopter landed right in the yard. Prisoners and guards stood frozen in disbelief. Paillet dashed across the yard, jumped aboard, and they soared away. 5 minutes. That's all it took to humiliate the entire French prison system. France was stunned. He was caught months later and locked in a supermax facility. Second escape. July 14, 2007, Bastille Day, France's national holiday, symbolic. Grass prison, an even more secure facility. But Paillet's crew struck again. This time, they landed on the roof. 3 men with power saws cut through steel fencing in minutes while the pilot kept the engine running. They freed Paillet and 3 other inmates, 4 men, 1 helicopter, 0 shots fired. Total chaos below. Guards had no idea what to do. He was later caught in Spain, but the damage was done. Pascal Paillet entered history as the man who proved that when you think big enough, even the sky isn't the limit. 1. The Great Escape. Stalag Luft 3, March 24, 1944. Stalag Luft 3, a Nazi POW camp in Poland. It held Allied airmen. The camp was designed to be escape-proof. Sandy soil to detect digging. Guard towers every 50 meters. Dogs. Searchlights. But 600 POWs, pilots from Britain, Canada, Australia, and America, planned an operation that would make history. They dug not 1 tunnel, but 3 simultaneously, codenamed Tom, Dick, and Harry. If one was discovered, the others would survive. It was a military-grade plan. The scale of Harry, the main tunnel, 110 meters long, longer than a football field, 9 meters deep, 3 stories underground, reinforced with 90 bedboards, ventilation made from 1,400 tin cans, electric lighting from stolen wiring, rail carts on handmade tracks for soil transport. Organization like a military operation. Every one of the 600 had a role. Diggers worked 8-hour shifts. Penguins wore special pouches under their clothes to scatter tunnel soil around the camp unnoticed. Over 200 tons in total. Tailors made civilian clothes from blankets, dyed to look real. Artists forged German passports, IDs, and maps. Engineers ensured tunnel stability. Lookouts tracked guard patrols and signaled with codes. A year of work. The Germans never suspected a thing, even as they walked right above the tunnels. On the night of March 24th, the operation began. The plan, 200 men to escape in one night, each with forged papers and routes across Europe. But a tragic miscalculation. Harry surfaced 3 meters short of the woods, too close to a guard tower. A sentry spotted movement in the snow after the 77th man. Alarms, spotlights, dogs, chaos. Result? 76 men escaped the camp. 73 were recaptured within a week by Hitler's direct order. Furious over the humiliation, 50 were executed. Only 3 reached freedom. But the Great Escape wasn't about the 3 who made it. It was about courage and unity. 600 men worked as one army against tyranny, using engineering, discipline, organization, and above all, hope. Afterward, Hitler diverted thousands of troops from the Eastern Front to guard POW camps, an indirect victory for the Allies. This is number 1 because it wasn't just one man's escape. It was a military operation where hundreds risked everything for freedom. The scale, the planning, and the sheer bravery make it the most genius escape in human history. The story became legend. In 1963, Hollywood made The Great Escape with Steve McQueen, but the real story was even more incredible and tragic than the movie.